Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of TMS, or The Match Show, because as you heard in the last episode, we kidnapped Zach and got rid of him, and now we've replaced him with our second guest. We have Cameron Kasky, who is a graduate of Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, and got involved in the Andrew Yang campaign. You're now also, or you used to be, or I guess you still would be, one of the founders of the March for Our Lives gun movements. And I'm curious, Kyle, kind of before we get in, like there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about today. But first, just where are you at? How are you? And how have you been doing during this coronavirus?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm in Florida. It's nice and hot down here. It's crazy as it is everywhere, but all's well. Just trying to make sure that, all of us stay nice, happy, healthy, and accountable for ourselves. It's very, very bizarre being in the same household with the same people for so long. I can't imagine what they must have to deal with living with me. Think about this. I had a roommate in college. Somebody had to live with me for that long. Poor fella. And but yeah, I mean, everything's fine. The world is melting down in ways, and just new ways every day. They found aliens the other day. Do you remember that? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. The Pentagon, they really released the videos.
Footage, and nobody's talking about it. I don't even know what the deal is with it. Was it a joke? Was it a meme?
I mean, they're real UFOs. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen like I don't know how much you watch Joe Rogan, but one time he had on this guy who was a Navy fighter pilot back in like early 2000s. He had actually had this mission where he had gone out and filmed like UFOs that literally were moving at like, you're up in like an airplane, like 30,000 feet up. You can see anything around for miles. And I think the guy's name is like Bob Lazar might be it or something. But he says like this object literally can just go from like being, you can see it 2 seconds later, it's completely gone from all your like 30,000 feet of visibility, like how much of a view you have up there.
That's how Yang got here, was in one of those ships.
Yes,
right? In the future.
Yes, one of the aliens who put him in here to take over the world from
exactly,
from the inside.
Everyone's in on it too. Everybody is.
Yes, we're in it. We're in on it as well.
My bad.
It's good to hear you're doing good, all things considering. I want to take this conversation kind of back, like around like a year ago at this time. We were just getting into the Democratic primary season. The debates were still about 2 months away, and it's kind of hard to believe it's been that long. Honestly, like I can't believe
a year ago we were still thinking about that
first debate, which is crazy. Where a year ago, where were you kind of in the candidates that you were looking at? Who were you considering? And when did you first, I guess, catch an interest in Andrew Yang?
I could tell you that the first time I ever saw Andrew speak was in December of 2018.
Oh, wow.
I was at an event with Eric Swalwell and a couple of our friends that were on the campaign. And I saw Andrew go up and give this speech that I must say was captivating. I think that the people who spoke that night were Eric Swalwell, Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Yang, and I want to say there was somebody else, maybe John Delaney. I don't quite remember, but it was a fun night. I got to, talk to Pete and Andrew and, connect with everybody. And that was back when I think there were 3 or 4 people at the very most on the Yang campaign. And one of them came up to me and he said, well, you should consider voting for Yang. He cares a lot about you. And I know that he's going to fight the good fight. So I said, okay, cool. He seemed like a fun guy. He gave a great speech. It was really an interesting speech. If you ever want to look at early Andrew, because Andrew was always just so fun and engaging to hear. But Andrew, before, things started, before the ball started to really roll, early, like awkward, not confident Andrew, great content. Because he went up there and he was about to hear somebody so earnestly. It was as though he was giving a class presentation on why he should be the president. And it was basically done in the format that I would run for like secretary of my drama club. And it was great. And, I got to talk to him after. It was so nice to see him and everyone on the campaign. And then I said, wow, that was definitely the speech of the night, was this guy Andrew Yang, who went up and started talking about giving every American $1,000. I was like, wow, that was an interesting one. And then, you know, a couple months down the line, I hear, you know, some people saying that, you know, he's going to be in the debate stage. I'm like, oh, what's going on there? And then he goes up on the debate stage and talks for 3 seconds in the first debate. Wow, 3 out of 3 of those seconds, Andrew nailed it. But yeah, I mean, I think that the one thing that really made me like Andrew was the fact that a lot of different people I know were not supporting him, but were rooting for him, and a lot of different people had him as their, well, yeah, if that was possible, I would vote for him. And that made me think, you know, is that kind of, I don't know, to do with my hair in this situation, because if I put it all up in the hat, then it's going to look like, but it's so long. Anyway, you know, a lot of different people said that Andrew seemed like, you know, he would be great and they'd love to get behind him, but, you know, let's be real here. And they all said, you know, he can't win, but I'd love it if he did. And the other thing was that a lot of people towards Iowa had him at their number 3. And I think that, you know, and we could touch on ranked choice voting here too. It was interesting. We would call people, we would phone bank in Iowa, and we had this little computer screen in front of us that had the questions that we'd be asking people. So it would say, who do you plan on voting for in the primary? Where would Andrew Yang fall on your list of candidates? And I remember everybody, it was either, oh my God, again, look at this. It was either with the beard and the messy hair and the hat, I look like a libertarian right now. I look like I'm on some sort of blog online, really bad stuff about good people. But anyway,
someone commented earlier they liked the beard. They thought it was a good look.
I'm using it as a physical representation that time has passed, because if not, I would not know that I've been. But anyway, we were calling people, and I would say, who are your top 3 candidates? Or rank the candidates 1 to 5. However, you know, there were some people who we talked to for 30 seconds and some people who I got to become very friendly with. That's a fun part of phone banking in Iowa, is that you get to meet a lot of fun Iowans, and just some of them you connect with. I remember talking to somebody about House of Cards, but it would always go either Pete, Joe, Andrew, and then Bernie and Warren, or it would go, you know, Bernie, Warren, Andrew, and then Pete and Joe. But Andrew always kind of hung out at that number 3, because the progressives preferred him over the moderates, and the moderates preferred him over the progressives. And he was just sitting there, and everybody was like, yeah, you know, nothing but love for Andrew.
Absolutely.
And
go ahead.
I was just saying, you know, if you're going to talk about unifying people, and you're looking at a candidate who does not offend people, it's really nice to see, because Andrew, to me, was the only candidate on the field that did not directly, very, very distinguishedly piss a group of people off. You know, Amy Klobuchar had some rough convictions in the past, and you know, her legal career reflected on some negative things. Joe Biden had some bills that we don't like. Bernie Sanders had some bills that we don't like. Elizabeth Warren had things we don't like. Andrew just came in and he was like, you know, giving everybody a friendly wave. And I think America needed. I always compared Andrew to your really nice friend from college that your fiance likes. You know, America needed their friend from college, Andrew, in the White House. And, you know, now you look around and you realize that Andrew's all over the place now, and people are messing with the movement more than ever. And it's just such a great thing for everyone in the Yang Gang to see. And it's nice to see that everyone in Yang Gang stuck together and are now seeing that, you know, there's longevity in the movement. There's so much energy, and that it was a great kickoff, and it's only going uphill. And people are, you know, some movements and some coalitions disband when something like, you know, their candidate dropping out stops. Some people lose hope. Yang Gang just kept on writing long, friendly tweets at each other, and now everything looks great.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's pretty incredible how far we've come in just like the 2.5 months, which feels like forever since Yang suspended. But I had the total same experience as you did when like talking with voters in Iowa. It was so like you never met a person who was like, "Oh, I don't like that guy," or "Bye, get out of my face." Like if you're whether you're door knocking or calling voters, it was always people will be like, I like Andrew, but I'm not exactly sure. Like, I don't know how the UBI works, or, I like Bernie more. I voted for him last time. You never found anybody really who was like, that guy is mean. That guy, I don't want anything to do with that. Because I think this whole movement that's been built, it really is fascinating because it does draw in so many people from so many different ideological backgrounds,
Yeah.
which is definitely to because of Andrew's ability to not, this group of people is bad. They're the ones causing all your problems. Blame them. Like kind of this culture of, I guess, alienation would be the word. And that definitely attracted me to his campaign. And you got on board, I guess, pretty early then. If the first speech was December
Well, I wasn't
2018,
working for
and
the
then
campaign at the time. That was
yeah,
the first time I had seen Andrew.
yeah,
The first event I did with Andrew's campaign, I I want to say was actually in January. I think that it was in January in Iowa, and I got I think we were just doing a couple youth events and stuff like that, but it was so much fun on the campaign. The spirit was so great. And to your point, everybody, all the vibes were so good. And as juvenile as all the vibes were so good sounds, it's really a key part of building a coalition that's supportive, strong, and is able to push forward. Because the thing is, um, Andrew's campaign, I really always messed with me. Somebody's messing with you off screen right now. Send them my
yes, someone is messing with me off screen.
but it always really, ticked me off that people characterized every Bernie Sanders supporter as this quintessential toxic online bully. But the fact of the matter is, Bernie's camp had toxic online bullies. It's a fact. And I think that again was mischaracterized, horribly put, and they took a very strong movement filled with a lot of different people with a lot of different voices and tried to pigeonhole them all into being this image of an angry online white dude who's just, letting out his toxic frustration at everybody, when in all reality, again, this was a strong movement of people standing together. It really messed with me. But Andrew's campaign was very evergreen, and it had life with a lot of other campaigns. We were friendly with everybody. I remember I was wearing a math shirt in the lobby of a hotel in Iowa, and there were these two women in, I would say, their 50s or 60s wearing Joe shirts, and they were drinking wine, and we were all watching the results pour in. And, Iowa could have gone better or worse for Andrew, but we weren't in love with the results. And Joe's camp was definitely not a fan of their Iowa results. They did not like what they saw out there. And I was just sitting with them, and they were drinking their wine, and they were telling me their story about how they're from Philadelphia and how they were all about Obama's campaign, and they were Republicans before Obama. And Joe reminds them of Obama, which, like Joe or not, I don't know how Joe reminds. I get how Joe by association reminds you of Obama, but the way they framed it was, he reminds me of Obama.
He could be his cousin,
Yeah, exactly. But I think that I was talking to them, and they talked about Yang the way that they would talk about their grandson, who they like to, who helps them with their taxes. They were like, "Oh, he's just so friendly." It's something my friend Matt says about Pete Buttigieg. He says that older women in Iowa think that Pete Buttigieg reminds them of their grandson who helps them fix their computer, and that resonated with me. I thought that was hilarious. I could totally see that effect. And I think Andrew was the same way. People, everybody collectively was able to see him as somebody who just wanted to, who felt grateful for the opportunity to stand for everybody in a time when we all don't really want to be standing with each other, because there are a lot of people in this country I don't want to stand next to right now, literally and figuratively. And there's a lot of different ideas and groups of people with certain ideologies that I cannot even imagine being considered what American means to me. There are people who have these horrible hateful, awful messages that are living and thriving right now, especially in times like these. And Andrew has the guts to lead everybody at a time when I don't think I would want to lead everybody. You know, if I were about to be president right now, I wouldn't. I know I would have to, but I wouldn't want to be president for all of America, because a lot of America is pretty bad. A lot of people out there are doing really bad things. People are protesting the shutdowns in large groups, and I would feel like, you know, I don't think I have a strong enough character to be able to say I am willing to fight for people that go out and, you know, protest against the closures for coronavirus.
Yeah.
Andrew, I think, had it in him to say, you know what, this is a time when a lot of people are saying and doing some very un-American things, but I'm going to be the president for everybody, and I'm going to try to help heal this country in a respectable and you know, strong, fundamental way, because I think Andrew recognizes the roots of a lot of problems where a lot of other candidates really only focus on the, you know, the symptoms.
100%.
And that was really effective and important, and you could see that reflected in the movement.
Yeah, and I think like what you just touched on, actually, in terms of like the protesters who, you know, they're going out and collecting, and groups of hundreds of people, they aren't wearing masks, they aren't really social distancing, but I think what Andrew's campaign kind of is talking about, and I think one of the themes of his campaign is like, you see something like that and you're like, oh, these people, they just don't know what's going on, they're dumb, blah blah blah, whatever somebody could come up with. But what I think, like how a President Andrew Yang would treat these people is, he'd think like, okay, well, he always talked about during his campaign, if you're financially struggling, your standard deviation goes down by, or your IQ goes down by a whole standard deviation. So if you're someone who is already like financially struggling, and then a shutdown happens and you're just not thinking things clearly because all you can think about is the bills you have to pay next month, you go out and you do like desperate things that maybe if you were more financially secure and you had time to spend on other things and you weren't so consumed in, I don't know, like the partisan back and forth and not knowing who to trust with our institutions and our news media. Like it's a crazy time we're in, where there's a good amount of people who don't know, they don't believe the media, they don't believe the government, they don't believe anyone, so they just do whatever and however they feel, and
you could see income inequality's effect on that, because you see a lot of areas like this and you realize that people, like you said, are acting in these ways because, you know, their perspectives and their lives are so negatively affected by their financial situation. And, you know, you need to have somebody in office who has a vision where they can look forward and say, this can be a country where we're all working together in much more effective ways if we actually do give people opportunity. And I think that in all camps, well, I mean, this is not an uncommon belief. It's not like I made this up. The amount of classism that's present in the Republican and Democratic Party, and how the lack of inclusivity with people who are financially struggling is crazy, and people get pigeonholed because they act in certain ways due to a lack of financial opportunity. They get characterized as these people that are worse than others, and I fall into that hole too. There are people who do things that would be morally reprehensible if I did them, and therefore I look down on them and realize that I'm looking down on them from so much more a point of privilege than they are. And you have to make an effort to understand people like that. You have to make an effort to realize that, you know, there is a path to making this better for everybody, even if it's a path where you have to sacrifice something, or you have to swallow your pride and acknowledge the fact that there's more you can be doing to be helping.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I actually really respect about you is kind of your approach to when it comes to two people who disagree about a very controversial issue, it seems like you come to the approach where you really do just want to understand how the other person is feeling and why they feel a policy position in a way that disagrees with how you approach it, without because I think when you judge other people and why they're doing why they're acting the way they're acting, without kind of hearing them out first, it's like a total like turn off to the conversation. Like you just won't want to talk to that person anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the most important thing for me to ever acknowledge when it comes to discussing political things was just how often what I was saying was just kind of out of my ass. And that's not to say that I don't believe what I say. And most of the opinions I've had over the past several years have stayed relatively towards the same direction. I used to have a lot more faith in the establishment. Listening to me talk about the establishment.
That's something I already didn't have a lot of faith in the establishment, and then I like get really involved in politics for a year, and I'm like, oh god, it's way worse than I thought.
Yes, true. Second of all, I feel weird saying I don't have faith in the establishment while I have this patchy beard, this hat, this messy hair. Like I feel like I look like everything your mom is scared you're going to be watching on YouTube. But so I think that what I realized was that so often when I was in conversations with people, when I say talking from my ass, I mean that I only had the pointed goal of making them feel like a smaller man than me. And when it comes to the actual value of the discussion, I believed what I said. I argued, but I was arguing in the direction of, look like a big tough dude, which obviously I am. Look at me.
No, I'm scared right now. So,
but yeah, so that definitely changed the way I approach things like that. Also, I'm a fucking idiot. There are people out there who read so many books. There are people out there who learn from other people and have life experience and didn't grow up in a privileged little area like Parkland, Florida. What the fuck do I know? Am I allowed to curse on this show?
No, yeah.
Okay, great. If not, too bad. It's live. Sorry, 3 and 4 year old Zach and Matt show fans.
Yeah, we have a lot of them. So
we did you wrong.
No, it's all good. Have you ever met Fred the trucker? Fred the felon. He had the big Yang 2020 trucks in Iowa.
No, but he sounds like a beast.
Oh yeah, he's been on the show all the time, and with him, it's like every third word is just like "fuck," "shit," blah 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 blah.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to be like, what's his name?
Fred. His Twitter is at felon_Fred.
Everybody in the Yang Gang, please donate to the Cameron Kasky Haircut Fund.
Yeah, dude, you got to get one of these buzz cuts. My brother did it the other day, and I was.
The problem is, I look like it's too messy. Should I get rid of the hat and just look like a fool?
You gotta. I think if you put on a math hat, you'll be all good.
I left my math hat in my apartment in New York.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, fuck it.
But
right now, what's up, everybody? My name is Cameron. I look like a version of myself from the future who came back to warn myself not to make some sort of mistake. And this is like my Terminator, Kyle, whatever his name is, Kyle Reese.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with Zach from Zach and Matt show like 2 days ago, and he was saying how we were talking about like clothing and stuff, and I was wearing this jacket I got back in Iowa. It has like Bugs Bunny all over it. It's kind of like a weird jacket, but it's also pretty funny. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like my go-to jacket now. And he's like, yeah, like we're just talking about like the go-to outfits. And it's like, well, then again, like how can you really define what's go-to? And like nobody's really got dressed properly for anything for like 50 days. So I think the point is, you're good, dude. I think,
but people have scissors in their house. People can shave it. People can cut their hair. I look like I've got just this big mop on my head.
Oh, actually, Fred's here right now. Ignore his comment though.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, Fred. I was just telling Cameron about your crazy trucks and how you curse all the time,
buddy. I aspire to be a felon too one day. It's on my list.
Hey, you gotta try everything.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to do it in a Madoff style.
So yeah, something white collar that really confused everyone.
I live very close. I not like very close. I don't know where his actual house is, but I live very close to the town that Bernie Madoff lives in. And I think that he was released from. Was he released for coronavirus?
I have no clue.
I feel like somebody.
Maybe.
I don't know. Was it? I wonder what OJ's doing right now.
Well, he's out, so he's probably just
the juice is loose.
Doing Twitter lives every once in a while.
He blocked me on Twitter.
For what? Why?
Because he tweeted out this thing that said My mama told me when I was young that I need to love and respect everybody like they are myself. And I am grateful for that lesson every day, Mama. Thank you. And I commented, "Oh my God, that's so funny because my mama told me not to fucking stab anybody." I'm so glad that she taught me that. It's such a grateful lesson. So blessed. Hashtag blessed. And then he fucking blocked me, which is like not cool. Come on, man. At least he didn't stab me.
Oh my gosh.
I did a Twitter
That's why
live.
he blocked you. He didn't want to hear the follow up. Yeah.
What did you say?
He didn't want to hear your follow up nail in the coffin. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. OJ Simpson. Oh, what a story. One thing that you
should have him on the Zach and Matt show.
If he's well, if you're out there, OJ, and you'd like to come on, we'd like to have you on as well. Not really for your opinion, but more so for the publicity that will come with it.
Yeah.
I one thing that you touched on briefly for a sec was how there's like this kind of appearance of the Bernie side of things where it's all just like a bunch of angry young like white men who are just pissed off and blah blah blah, whereas I think that's just kind of like the stereotyping that gets associated with the Bernie side. And the I guess like what you see on Twitter isn't always representative. I don't even want to say isn't always. What you see on Twitter is not representative of real life. So even if you have like a bunch of vocal people online who are a little toxic, that definitely, it's not like you actually knock on people's doors in these early states that's what you're getting every time a Bernie supporter opens the door. But what
the Bernie supporters, we had so much fun with them. We'd be like, "Who are you voting for?" And they'd be like, "Bernie." And we're like, "Have you considered Yang?" And they're like, "Yeah, we considered Yang, but we're gonna vote for Bernie." And then they were all just so nice. But the thing is, I got pissy when I was talking about Bernie too, because this toxicity that comes with the campaign that people associate with the campaign, this characterization of the Bernie world, you have to understand it's really hard to go out there and hear people like Nina Turner tell their story, hear different surrogates from the Bernie campaign talk about why they believe Bernie is the guy we need. It's hard to hear that and not sometimes get a little pissed off, because when you hear about the parts of our country that are currently broken and have been broken by, you know, members of the party that we think are monolithically the good guys, it gets upsetting when you start to see that, you know, all these different clear paths to helping different people around the country that for the purposes of money and all these other things are being blocked by Democrats. The Democrats, those are supposed to be the good guys. It's supposed to be that the Democrats are the good guys, the Republicans are the bad guys, and the Libertarians are tons of fun. And that was my little viewpoint of everything. But then, you know, when you're out there knocking doors with Bernie surrogates, when you're out there watching him speak and just meeting with and connecting with the people in the communities that need Bernie the most and talk about Bernie the most, you start to realize, you know, I would do just fine in Mike Bloomberg's America. I'm doing just fine in Donald Trump's America. But this isn't about me. I'm look at me. I'm a white cisgender male who was born in a very, 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 you know, upper middle class community. Any of these presidents, they'll probably be going way out of their way to support somebody who looks like me and who has had the life I had. And when you start to work with different people on campaigns like Bernie's campaign and connect with the people who don't have that kind of privilege and who don't have that kind of systemic advantage, it gets really frustrating. I've gone off online in support of Bernie. I've gotten real ticked off at people because I've heard the stories of the single mothers who lost everything around them and had no access to Medicare, had no access to an opportunity to give their children a better life. And I start to realize Medicare for all who want it and things like that, different talking points that have been thrown around the Democratic Party for years and have done nothing for us except for get Donald Trump elected. You know, look, the fact of the matter is no good political party leads to Donald Trump being the president.
Yeah, 100%.
If the Democratic Party was what the Democratic Party was supposed to be, Donald Trump wouldn't be the president. He's Donald Trump. And when you're talking to people from the Bernie world and you're hearing why the thought of somebody having, you know, the thought of somebody having not wanted to vote in 2016 to me seems on the surface level like the most irresponsible, arrogant, and awful thing a person can do. And while I am certainly voting for Joe Biden over Donald Trump, when I hear different people explain why they could not put their vote behind that, as much as I cannot agree and say that I share that viewpoint, you understand. And you start to see this whole message behind Bernie's campaign as we are the people standing up to be heard because neither of these parties are working for us. Whereas Joe, Pete, Amy, what they had was the Democratic Party picking them up and, helping them along the way. It's like the Hunger Games, but they had better sponsors. They were getting more packages sent from the sky. I'm sorry if any of you don't get that reference. It'll have a young enough audience that will be fine. But
yeah, I think so.
But so when you talk about things like Bernie's camp and that, you have to realize that once you hear people who aren't from Parkland, Florida, like me, and who aren't able to walk around out at night outside of their house safely, when you hear those people explain their stories and their lives, you start to say, well, why the hell haven't we been doing better? And then you start to see other people turn a blind eye to it because, like me, they didn't understand what other people's lives were like. And you start to get frustrated. You say, look, I was turning a blind eye to this too, but suddenly it's built up and it's built up and it's built up, and it's people like you and I not giving a shit that's going to lead to this becoming a problem always. And then when people don't want to, look at these other people's perspectives because the establishment has been serving them so well for so long and makes them feel like they are part of the good guys when the change that the good guys need to be making is not being made, well, that's where you start to realize that there's a giant divide right now that will never come back together. And the Democratic Party should be able to rally behind Joe Biden against Trump. I feel so weird saying that. I don't feel inspired saying that. I don't feel happy saying that. I feel like I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. And I feel like the general spirit about that is, yeah, we're going to go vote against Donald Trump. And it's like, okay, great. Congratulations, America. This is how well you're doing. Right now you're voting against a president.
Yeah. When is it going to, I feel like it's long past due that we finally vote for something rather than against something. I feel like it hasn't been that way on a national level since the Obama days.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely Obama. I think a lot of people were able to stand both Obama and Romney. I really do. I don't think that many people, but I think that one wasn't the worst case scenario for a lot of people. I know a lot of people who would have been just fine either way. But yeah, it's looking like for a very, very long time, once Cuomo runs for president. You know what, Andrew Cuomo,
what's your opinion
today? Don't fucking run for president.
So okay, so you're not on the Cuomo run for president train.
I'm supportive of Andrew Cuomo in the spaces in which I should be supportive of him and absolutely nowhere else. And there are not a lot of spaces in which I believe one should be completely supportive of him as a candidate, but that's fine.
Yeah,
look, the sexualization of him because he is overseeing this response is hilarious, especially since the response is catastrophically bad.
Yeah, well, see, that's kind of where I'm at. Is like, okay, is he actually doing like a really good job with the outbreak? Because that you look at it, and New York has had the worst outbreak out of anywhere, and you could have said that was inevitable. But you look over at like a state like Washington or California, they have, Los Angeles is a clusterfuck of people. Seattle, that was one of the first places to have an outbreak, but they don't have quite the amount of cases as New York City. So my perspective, and I don't know if it's a bad perspective, it might be, but it's like, how is the guy who's had the worst outbreak so far, is he's the one who's like right for the job? I don't know.
Because he's talking the most and he's not Trump.
Well, so exactly. That's kind of
talking the most and not being Trump is an insanely easy thing to do, and it'll do you wonders in your career. I think there are going to be two co-presidents, Andrew and Chris Cuomo.
Someone says, if you want a GOP governor for pres, you got to rally behind Larry Hogan. I like Larry Hogan. He's my governor here in Maryland. He's a Republican, and Maryland has the highest amount of highest percentage of registered Democrats of any state in the country. And Hogan, Republican, won the re-election with like 18 plus percentage point gain, like margin. It's pretty insane.
That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole like it kind of tells you like things are really fundamentally broken when you have such a huge kind of anti-establishment movement on both the left and right sides of the aisle. And I don't know like how much you watch like someone like Kyle Kalinske. I watch him a decent bit. 'Cause I like hearing what he has to say about things, and he's just saying how like the establishment right and the left are kind of actually like the same in the sense that like as you said, you know, whether it's kind of like Biden as president or Trump as president, for like the I guess like, you know, whatever you want to word it in terms of like class and all that, it's like nothing will fundamentally change, but it's those people at the margins who like are forgotten about, who like nobody in politics even talks about, besides I think people like Andrew Yang and Bernie kind of spoke to a bit, that like they are the ones that ultimately get screwed in things like this.
I think it's so much about the racists and the not racists, and then the rich and the poor. I think that those are the two big divides. I think that it's, you know, it being Democrat and Republican is one way to frame it, but there's a lot of people in this country who are racist in power, and there's a lot of people in this country who exist to serve the folks who have got the most money, and the class and race division is, and this the first thing you could say to that is obviously, but is your camera
I'm
off?
still here. I put you full screen.
Oh God! Hey everybody, this is my room. This is my bedroom. This is like where we put other things. There's a cat tree here for my brother's cat. But I forgot what I was talking about.
Oops, how do I work this thing?
We were talking, yeah, I think so. Yeah, the first thing you'd say when you're talking about racial and class divides, it's like obviously, but when it comes to the characters of the parties, that's what it is, because both of these parties, the core of the party is a group of people trying to serve the folks who've got a lot of money, and there's just a ton of classism in there. It's really crazy the condescending ways that these upper class Democrats and Republicans will just look down on people. And you're right, it comes to a point where the similarities will, you know, end up being more than the differences. Like you think about that call that those Hillary staffers went on, the Bye Bye Bernie call. It was like a big Zoom celebration of Bernie suspending his campaign.
Yeah, that's not a good. That's like a terrible taste.
What a bunch of tasteless.
If I
prissy douchebags.
If I was a Sanders supporter, like a really if I was as into Sanders as I was into Yang, I'd be so mad right now.
Here's what it is. It's that the Joe team has a win-win situation here. They get to say, fuck you, Bernie supporters. You're a bunch of stupid fuckers. We hate you. Get the fuck away. You're pathetic little pieces of shit. And then if the Bernie voters vote for Biden, which they should, they get to say, yeah, and Biden won, so fuck you all. And then if Biden loses, which he very well might because his coalition is terrible and his campaign isn't doing anything, then they get to say, oh, it's because the toxic Bernie bros didn't show up. Even though more Hillary supporters voted for McCain in 2008 after Obama got the nomination than Bernie supporters voted for Trump in 2016 after Hillary got the nomination.
Yeah, I've seen that. They show the polls like this percentage of Bernie voters, and it was the same thing with Yang because it was even higher. Like this percentage of Yang supporters won't vote for the Democratic nominee. And then I saw what you just referred to, the same polling back in like 2008, Obama versus Hillary. It was like this segment of Hillary supporters like, oh, I'm never going to vote for Obama.
Yeah, bunch of fucking hypocrites.
Hypocrisy is very common in politics, and I can't stand hypocrisy, so I try to stay away from it. One thing we didn't get a touch on.
Oh, wait, you're trying to stay away from hypocrisy? All right, I'll click out now. Thank you.
See ya. But one thing I think we didn't touch on quite yet is how did you get involved? How did you go, I guess, from supporter to then getting involved to the campaign? You know, I think you were in Iowa in January, right? And you're doing videos on social media and stuff. How did that get started?
I put out a post then that somebody from his campaign wrote me about on Twitter, and she texted me and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you come out to Iowa." And I said, "You know what? Sure." I was on winter break. I headed out. I got to go to headquarters, meet everybody, connect with everyone. I did some speeches, did some town hall stuff. It was tons of fun, and everybody on the campaign, we had such a great time. And I later went to Iowa for the primary. I went to Iowa in early January and then went back for the primary. And we ended up from the primary taking a 5-hour drive together from from Iowa to Chicago because there were no flights out of Iowa after the primary. Everybody.
Yeah.
Fun story, actually. I went to Nevada with my friend Matt Deitch for Bernie Sanders, and we were doing an event for Bernie after Andrew had dropped out, and he and I sat in the 2 back rows of the plane just because that was the tickets that the Bernie campaign had booked us. Like, they flew us out and they had us in the 2 back rows of the plane, and we were like, "Oh, this is nice. We just get to cuddle up and fall asleep and wake up in Nevada." And we were walking onto the plane, and the only 2 other people wearing campaign shirts were wearing Pete shirts, and they were in first class. And look, maybe this is a special trip for them. Maybe one of them has back problems. Maybe it's harder for them to fly. Maybe, they have some sort of physical or mental reason that, generally speaking, it's more responsible for them to go into first class. I'm just saying it says a little bit about American politics that the people in the Pete shirts were in the first class and the people in the Bernie shirts were nice and close to the potty.
There's the same thing during Andrew's campaign. I remember there was a picture of him on a Spirit flight, and it went viral.
Oh my God!
It's like, look, hey, Andrew's not flying first class on American Airlines like over
whenever he's in New York, he only also travels by Bird electric scooter. So
yeah, we're biking.
Yeah.
But here's like another thing I want to hear your opinion on. Especially since, like you said, you did a campaign for Bernie after Yang dropped out. Who did you see as? I don't think Bernie's going to run again in 2024. I think that would be pretty insane because of just his age. Do you think I think AOC would be eligible for running in 2024 by like a month? Do you see her as being the next Bernie Sanders, or do you see like someone else filling in that progressive void? And also, how do you think that affects a potential Yang 2024 run?
Well, I think that it just, out of guessing, and look, I'm a 19-year-old boy who has met AOC once for about 8 seconds.
8 seconds more than most of us. So
yeah, 8 seconds more than most of us.
The most experience here. Let us hear
it. Brief, kind run-in with her. So I think that me speculating about what her political future might look like might not be the most accurate take, but what I can guess is that she's not going to put her hat in for 2024. I think she's got a long future in politics in which her voice will be influential to generations of different people running for office. I think that young progressives everywhere are looking to her as a symbol. And I think that she and Bernie both have a similarly strong approach, which is, yeah, I'll be your person that you all obsess over right now, as long as you realize that I am not your God. I am part of the progressive movement. And that's something that I think Bernie did a great job of highlighting. Was this isn't about Bernie, this is about the ideas. Bernie was the guy who made them all exciting for you, but he always said, not me, us. And that's not just about Americans standing with each other. That's also him talking about all the progressives in Congress, all the progressives who are out there fighting. Bernie is the guy for that. But the reason that Bernie still pulled a huge victory in 2020, lasting as long as he did, he dropped, but Bernie had a massive W because he showed just how strong the progressive movement is. So now people like AOC and the other new members of Congress that everybody's freaking out over, they get to carry the torch and they get to move forward and pass it on as they move along. But I think that AOC and Bernie are their best bet is to keep up with the whole messaging of this is about all of us, and you can get excited about me, support me, vote for me, do this, but that's because I'm out here fighting for what we all should be. And that's the strength of the progressive movement, is that it's about the ideas and not the people. And I think Andrew did a great job kind of towards the end figuring out how to capitalize on how many people love Andrew for Andrew, while also laying the groundwork for this not just being about Andrew, it being about everything on his platform. The entirety of the Humanity Forward platform is what needs to keep on growing here, not just Andrew personally. So it's hard to like being Andrew right now and thinking, how do I leverage the fact that all these people love me for me and turn that into them following me so I can spread around this new, set of ideas that can really guide us in a great direction. And I think he's handling it exceedingly well. A lot of people are getting excited. Humanity Forward's doing great. I've collaborated with them on a lot of different things, and operationally they're awesome. Everybody working is super engaged and just too good at what they do. There's a lot of exciting things to come, and that's all great. But I think that 2024, you could see somebody like Cuomo getting everybody's aunt excited. Andrew Cuomo and Randy Rainbow are the two people that everybody's aunt loves. I know.
Who's Randy Rainbow?
He's a YouTuber who makes parody videos about Trump to popular songs. He's a very, very, very sweet man. And the two of them, ask if you have a liberal aunt, your liberal aunt loves Andrew Cuomo and loves Randy Rainbow. Everybody listening, test it out. Anyway, I could see like an Andrew Cuomo type getting all these people excited. Like, I really like what he has to say. I can see Pete running again, which would be just exhausting to me. I think Corey will run again. I don't know. The whole question is going to be, do the Democrats learn from running way too many people?
I think
learn from, but I know that you'd think the answer might be yes. But another thing you learn about the Democratic Party is that the Democratic Party doesn't learn from shit. And if you don't believe me, Joe Biden's the nominee right now.
No, yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
I do. I kind of, part of me really does hope like the Cory Booker of the world. And I mean, you could love or hate Cory Booker, like policy wise. He seems like a nice, decent guy. Like, I really do hope like they kind of realize like you're not going to be president. And I get it. It can get in your head because, 2014, you're seeing these magazine covers like, I don't know, your wife shows it to you in the morning. Look, it says you're going to be the next Obama, and Obama's in office. He's doing great. You're like the next young black.
Cory Booker was a bachelor.
I can see how it can get inside your head, but ultimately, like when you don't even make it to Iowa, you get beaten by the random Asian guy from nowhere. I think you do got to do like some self-reflection, like real self-reflection.
Well, it all depends on what demographics are going to need to be filled. I'm hoping that we I'm hoping we really cut the amount of moderates in the field, which won't happen, and if we got to have some moderates in the field, I'd rather see Corey up there than Pete, Amy, or pretty much any of the other ones up there. I'd love to see Amy Klobuchar again if I have to see a moderate again, which I'm kind of tired of. I don't know. I'm confused about Warren running. I'm confused. If it happens, it happens. I think Liz would be 100 times the candidate that Joe would be. I just don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you that I really hope we see some fresh faces because I did not love what I saw across the board in this past year's primary. I'd love to see Andrew again. I'd love to see Andrew again in 28 if that's what he wants to do, and 32 if he wants to do. This is not somebody who needs to be looking at the clock.
He's young.
He's a lad.
Very young.
He's a little boy. But but so I'm not worried about that. I have firm faith in Andrew to keep on doing what he's got to do. My only fear ever with Andrew is that he's gonna take on too much and collapse. But it seems like Evelyn is gonna make him rest and live and make sure he doesn't forget to eat and
yeah.
but anyway, so I think that, they've got obviously such a bright future. You're going to see so many more candidates in smaller elections, and that's a big thing for Yang Gang that everyone needs to understand is the next big step for everybody who's messing with UBI, everybody who's talking about data security, all these different things. You need to look at these down ticket races with people adopting Andrew's platform.
Yep.
People out there getting ready for congressional runs, a lot of people out there getting ready for smaller seats that other people don't get so excited about. And that's where Humanity Forward's platform, that's where all these different things are going to be able to see the pieces get put together for some real growth. Because Andrew came in hot. Andrew had a great primary. He really just a historical campaign, wonderful things. But now is the time to start, putting in the foundation for us to build from there and say, this is something, this is an energy that we can't let run out, but we have to disperse it healthily. We have to look at these smaller races. We need to support these other candidates. I know that Humanity Forward is putting together an endorsement system for different candidates in down ballot races. It's not now, if the Yang Gang wants to be serious and if everybody wants to actually take, what we all want to do forward, it's time to start really, getting it done and saying it's not always going to be the fun of getting a big, exciting presidential campaign together. It's also about doing the grunt work. It's about doing the dirty work. It's about crunching the numbers, doing the math,
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I think that's one reason and a lot of people I think were excited to see Andrew yesterday suing the New York State Board of Elections, because they were just essentially going to cancel the primary. And you have guys like Jonathan Herzog. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he was one of like the first 6 or 7 people to actually work on the Yang campaign. And then he left the campaign to like around a year ago to start and launch his own campaign for Congress in New York. And his election would essentially be canceled. Like all the work he's put in for the past year, like it's so undemocratic. And
crazy.
I want to jump into the comments here because we're getting some questions, and we got about 8 minutes left before we're going to wrap this up. So if you guys do have any questions that you would like to hear Cam answer, throw them in the chat. Felipe, he says, isn't really a question, but I have to make a comment about it. It says, I don't relate with the guest because he just said 19-year-old boy, and I think that sums things up. Well, I have to throw this in the hat. I'm 20 years old myself, so I'm a stupid boy as well, yet you're listening to me. So I think if you're going to pick on one, you got to pick on both. Hussein wants to know, what are your thoughts on Tulsi? Do you think what do you think of Tulsi, and do you think you'd like to see her in like a future administration or as part of some ticket?
Next question.
No? Is that a no?
I think Tulsi Gabbard was without a doubt one of the most concise speakers in the debates. I think that her diction is incredibly strong and she carries a lot of agency and passion on stage.
Yeah. So you would think like a Yang Tulsi ticket's good?
I would think that a Yang Tulsi ticket might be a bad idea.
But is that because like I guess the establishment, like they really just dislike Tulsi?
I think that the establishment dislikes Tulsi and I dislike the establishment, but that does not mean that the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
I think that Tulsi has some views on very, very many things that make me say, you know what, this is not who I want in office, not even a little bit at all.
Yeah. I mean, I personally like Tulsi. I think like Yang and Tulsi were the two that I like the most.
Tulsi's got the spirit, but
yeah.
I don't think the spirit's everything you've got. And credit where credit is due to Tulsi. Almost nobody up there had the spirit. 3 or 4 of them had the spirit. She had the spirit. And for me, absolutely nothing else to offer.
Yeah, I'm kind of like with Isaiah on this one, and I don't like being in this position because usually I just like it to be like who I agree with most on policy. But I was like back in the fall, that was kind of Tulsi had come out for UBI. I think it was like the October debate, and all the Yang gang started clamoring for the Yang Tulsi ticket. And then like as much as someone like me, I guess I like Tulsi, I was like kind of freaked out like, oh, if Yang gets in bed with her, like the DNC is going to even make it more impossible for Yang to win.
Well, I think that Tulsi is. I think that she definitely brought a lot of energy up there, and that's great for Tulsi.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what other kind things I could say, but I think that Tulsi is a human being who brought a lot with her on into the election.
Yeah.
I'll say that it's very easy to get excited about a candidate just because they dislike the same things as you. But your new beard styles actually. Thank you, Kevin. You know what? That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. But no, to quote a great, regarding what you said about Tulsi having enemies, to quote a great poet, I've got enemies, got a lot of enemies, got a lot of people trying to drain me of my energy. And it's a beautiful song. And the fact of the matter is, Tulsi is not somebody she did not go up there with the goal to bring people together in support of things. She went up there with the goal, in my opinion, to bring people together against certain things. And that did not resonate with me.
Yeah. If anybody else has like any questions, feel free to throw them up because I think unfortunately we ran out of time in our last one with Yang on Monday. We couldn't do open it up to the audience questions. Let's see here. It looks like there's none right now. What do you think is something that I guess the Yang or the Yang gang could improve on between now and whenever Yang decides to run again?
I think that really with everybody, it's just making sure that the eye is on the ball and that everybody is getting, first of all, continuing to be supportive of other campaigns, continuing to support other people. I don't think that monolithically only supporting Andrew is what everybody should be doing. I think that if anything, everybody should be getting out, getting engaged, and voting and connecting with voters in the way that they think is, the most, just building a community, becoming active and bringing Andrew and everything he stands for further into the conversation by being supportive. Oh, when are you going to lose the Buttigieg haircut?
I have zero control over that unless I take hair growth.
I have a cat at my mom's house, and I feel like Beto, like with my wine glass and my cat. Remember those pictures of Beto that came out of him just like lounging around in his living room?
Oh yeah. What do you think of Beto?
I think Beto ran an amazing Senate campaign. He ran an amazing, inspiring Senate campaign in 2018.
And that's it?
I really do believe that, though. I think that his Senate campaign was awesome.
I think he did run a really good campaign. I think now, though, he's killed his election chances in Texas, though.
I think that if it appears as though he'll have a better shot in Texas one day, he should go for Texas. But I do think that he could have maybe saved that energy for another run in Texas, because I think he would have been immensely influential and done just an amazing job in Texas.
Yeah.
I think I would have loved to see him as a Texas senator over Joe Biden's gun control guy. But, who cares?
Yeah. I think, oops, this is a comment. I think this is a fun question to end it on, and it'll be interesting. I didn't think you would say yes, because you would know this. You would know this better than anybody here. Like, getting thrust into the public eye kind of sucks.
I wouldn't even say it's about the public eye. I just don't think that you can be a good person if you are in office for too long.
Yeah, that certainly rings true, and I think that's something people worry about, like with Andrew. Like, they see like a month ago he was working like with Hillary. Like, Hillary Clinton tweeted out like a link to donate to Humanity Forward, and like instantly, like, everyone in the Yang Gang is like, "What is he working with, like Clinton?" And but what I like to hear with Andrew, he said in like this Instagram live the other day, he's like told Zach Grauman, like, if I ever start to sound like not me, like I start sounding like a politician, like, just take a gun and shoot me.
I think that it's definitely like he's got to keep moving in the direction of realizing that the reason he's been successful is because he is him. And the second he becomes part of what everybody is sick and tired of, people are not going to be so supportive anymore. But he knows that, you know, he doesn't want to become like that. He wants to advocate for a government where people get to actually be people and value people, and that's great. But just generally speaking, most of the people I've met who are involved with politics are not the types of people I would really want surrounding myself for my mental health, for my life, for my happiness.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the people whose goal is to be involved with politics are the last kind of folks I want around me.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah. I think everyone here can kind of figure what you need. Let's have this be the last question here. Cam, what do you think about a brokered convention?
I think that the convention, I think we should break the convention. Remember that stupid monologue in Game of Thrones, break the wheel?
I've not seen Game of Thrones.
Don't watch it.
Really?
No. Could have been the best TV show of all time. Ended up being...
the last 10 minutes ruined the whole show?
No. The last 2 or 3 years of it.
Oh, okay.
I would say seasons 1 through 4 are damn near perfect television. Season 5 is iffy. Season 6 is okay. And season 7 and 8 are absolute fucking garbage. And everybody who wrote that should be immensely ashamed of themselves. And everybody who worked on it should be very proud of themselves, because the actors and the production are all amazing. And the fact that you could have actors so fantastic and a production so beautiful and still be so unwatchably bad says so much about what those writers must have been smoking. But that's fine. Anyway, thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. Where can people follow you on Twitter? Is it just at Cameron Kasky?
No, don't tell them to. Nobody should follow him on anything.
Cameron doesn't want anyone to follow him, but
an abysmal Twitter account, an abysmal Instagram. My Tinder is, no, I'm just kidding. No. You can find me on whatever website you want to. I post a bunch of junk.
We all post junk, but some people like junk. So some people's trash.
Like an OnlyFans ad, doesn't it?
Was it?
That sounds like an ad for OnlyFans. We all post junk, but some people like junk.
Yeah.
Should I do that as a fundraiser? Anyway, thanks for having me, bro.
No, thanks for coming on. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.
Bye-bye.